The silent signal. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless in the control room of the Arecibo Io radio observatory, her eyes fixed on the display before her. The signal pattern pulsed with an otherworldly precision that made her breath catch in her throat. After 15 years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, she'd found something that defied every natural explanation. "Run it again," she ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. Her team worked in silence, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. The signal repeated, a complex series of mathematical sequences that could only be artificial in origin. But it wasn't just the complexity that made Sarah's hands tremble. It was the desperation encoded within the message, a plea that transcended language barriers and spoke directly to something primitive in her human brain. Something was out there, and it was terrified. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from radio telescopes across the globe. The message wasn't targeted. It was being broadcast across every frequency, in every direction, like a drowning person screaming for help in a storm. In Washington, D.C., Admiral James Hayes sat at the head of an emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic projections filling the room. The message had been decoded, and its contents had shaken the world's leadership to its core. "The Araxians," he began, his deep voice cutting through the murmurs of conversation, "are a species approximately 50,000 years ahead of us technologically. They've mastered faster-than-light travel, developed energy shields that could withstand supernovas, and built artificial worlds the size of Jupiter." He paused, letting the information sink in. "And something out there has them running scared." The room erupted in questions, but Hayes raised a hand for silence. "Our xenolinguists have been working around the clock to translate their message. What they've found is troubling." He nodded to Dr. Maya Patel, the head of the translation team. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her dark eyes serious behind her augmented reality lenses. "The Araxians are being hunted," she stated simply. "They call their pursuers the Void Harvesters, entities that exist partially in our dimension and partially in another. The Harvesters consume civilizations, not just physically, but they somehow extract and feed on the accumulated knowledge and technology of their victims. And they're asking us for help." General Sarah Rodriguez scoffed. "Us? We barely have a presence beyond Mars." "That's exactly why they're asking us," Hayes replied. "The Araxians have discovered something fascinating about humanity, something that makes us unique among all the species they've encountered." The holographic display shifted, showing a comparison between human neural patterns and those of various alien species. "We think differently," Dr. Patel explained. "Every other advanced species they've studied evolved through gradual optimization. Their neural patterns are elegant, efficient, and predictable. But humans," she highlighted the chaotic fractal patterns of human thought. "We're messy, unpredictable. We make intuitive leaps that defy logic. We see patterns where there are none, and sometimes those patterns turn out to be real. The Void Harvesters can predict and counter any strategy the Araxians devise," Hayes continued. "But they can't predict us. Our very inefficiency, our chaos, makes us the perfect weapon against them." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, the cosmic equivalent of a wild card, might be the galaxy's last hope against an enemy that had defeated civilizations far more advanced than their own. "There's more," Dr. Patel added softly. "The Araxians aren't just asking for our help. They're offering payment." She gestured, and new schematics filled the air. Faster-than-light drive technology, energy shields, medical advances that could end aging. Everything they know, freely given if we'll fight alongside them. Admiral Hayes stood, his expression grave. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face a choice. We can remain here, safe in our solar system, and watch as an ancient civilization is consumed by these harvesters, or we can do what humans have always done, face the impossible, adapt, and overcome." "And if we fail?" Rodriguez asked. "Then we fail trying to protect others," Hayes replied. Which is perhaps the most human thing we could do? The debate raged for hours. Scientists argued about the validity of the Araxian data. Military strategists debated the feasibility of fighting an enemy they barely understood. Politicians worried about the risks of involving Earth in an interstellar war. But as the sun set over Washington, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold, a decision was reached. Humanity would answer the call. Within days, Project Starkiller was initiated. Every major shipyard on Earth and Mars began retooling to incorporate Araxian technology. Military training facilities worldwide started developing new combat doctrines for fighting interdimensional enemies. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, combining human ingenuity with Araxian technical knowledge in ways the aliens had never imagined. In orbit above Earth, the first ship of humanity's response took shape. The ESS Hyperion, a vessel that married human military doctrine with Araxian technology. Its weapons were crude by Araxian standards, but they were unpredictable, innovative, and designed by minds that thought in ways the Void Harvesters had never encountered. As Dr. Chen watched the construction from her observatory, she reflected on the signal that had started it all. The universe had called out for help, not to the strongest or the most advanced, but to the species whose greatest strength was their very unpredictability. The stars had been silent for so long. Now they spoke of terror and hope, of ancient civilizations and impossible enemies. And humanity, young and brash and wonderfully chaotic, was about to answer their call. Somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the Void Harvesters continued their relentless advance, unaware that they were about to encounter something their perfect calculations had never accounted for: human ingenuity born of desperate times and the unshakable human drive to protect those in need. The silent stars were about to become a battlefield, and humanity was ready to prove that sometimes the best defenders are the ones no one saw coming. Operation Stardust. Captain Elena Martinez stood on the bridge of the ESS Hyperion, watching as the last traces of Earth's solar system faded from the quantum imaging displays. The ship hummed with an otherworldly resonance. The sound of Araxian, faster-than-light technology merged with human engineering. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did, just like everything else about this impossible mission. FTL core stable at 97%, reported Lieutenant David Chen, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The Araxian modifications are holding better than expected. Elena nodded, suppressing a smile. The aliens had been shocked when human engineers suggested running their precious FTL drives at nearly double the recommended power output. But as Chief Engineer Patel had pointed out, humans have been pushing machines past their supposed limits since the invention of the steam engine. "Status report on the battle group," she ordered, turning to face the tactical display where 5 other ships flew in formation with the Hyperion. Each vessel represented a different approach to merging human and Araxian technology, each an experiment in controlled chaos. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," Commander Sarah Wu responded, her cybernetic eye glowing softly as it processed the incoming data streams. "The Thunderchild's new weapon systems are online, and the Argentum's stealth systems are performing beyond specifications." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, but Elena could sense their underlying tension. They were about to become the first humans to make contact with the Araxians in person, and more importantly, the first to engage the Void Harvesters in combat. Their first destination was the Araxian refugee fleet, hiding in the darkness between spiral arms of the galaxy. The coordinates had been encoded in the original distress signal, along with warnings about the Void Harvesters' patrol patterns. Multiple quantum signatures detected ahead, Lieutenant Chen announced suddenly, matching known Araxian configurations. Elena straightened in her command chair. "Bring us out of FTL. Standard first contact protocols, but keep weapons hot. We don't know if the Harvesters have found them first." The transition back to normal space felt like being turned inside out and back again. Another sensation humans weren't supposed to be able to handle as well as they did. The view screen cleared to reveal a breathtaking sight. Hundreds of Araxian ships, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight like cosmic jewels. "We're being hailed," Wu reported. "The signal matches Araxian encryption patterns." On screen, the image that appeared showed a being that looked nothing like the humans had expected. The Araxian ambassador was a swirling pattern of bioluminescent clouds contained within a roughly humanoid force field. When it spoke, its thoughts were translated directly into concepts that bloomed in the minds of the bridge crew. "You came," the Araxian transmitted, its patterns shifting to express what humans would recognize as relief. "We feared our message might have been too late." Elena stepped forward. "I'm Captain Elena Martins of the Earth ship Hyperion. We received your distress call, and we're here to help." The Araxian's patterns swirled faster. "Your vessels, they contain our technology, but you've modified it in ways we never considered. How did you achieve this so quickly?" "We're good at improvising," Elena replied with a slight smile. "And we work well under pressure." Their conversation was interrupted by a blaring alarm. "Multiple quantum ruptures detected," Chen shouted. "Void harvester signatures." The tactical display exploded with new contacts as 3 massive harvester vessels tore their way into normal space. They defied easy description, their forms seeming to shift between dimensions, leaving afterimages that hurt the human mind to look at directly. "Battle stations," Elena ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos erupting around her. "Execute pattern Echo 7. Thunderchild and Argentum, protect the Araxian fleet. Everyone else, form up on me." The human ships moved with a speed and unpredictability that seemed to momentarily confuse the harvesters. While Araxian vessels typically followed optimal attack patterns calculated over millennia of warfare, the human ships seemed to move at random, firing weapons that combined principles from a dozen different scientific disciplines. "They're targeting the Araxian ships," Wu reported. "Standard pattern. They're trying to isolate and consume them one by one." Elena watched as the harvester's energy beams lanced out, only to be met by shields that flickered and pulsed in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Human engineers had taken the Araxians' perfectly tuned shield harmonics and introduced controlled interference patterns, creating defenses that were technically less efficient but vastly more difficult to predict and counter. "Launch fighters," Elena commanded. The Hyperion's launch bays opened, releasing squadrons of hybrid craft. Human-designed fighters powered by Araxian technology and piloted by crews who thought in ways no alien targeting computer could anticipate. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human or Araxian military history. Human ships danced through space in maneuvers that bordered on suicidal, their modified weapons creating ripples in space-time that disrupted the harvester's dimensional shifting abilities. The Thunderchild charged straight at one harvester, its experimental weapons turning the enemy's own interdimensional nature against it. "Their attack patterns are adapting," Wu warned. "They're learning." "Good," Elena replied, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "So are we. Execute Chaos Protocol Alpha." At her command, every human ship began operating on pure human intuition, their crews making split-second decisions based on gut feelings and hunches rather than tactical computers. The Harvester's perfect predictions fell apart in the face of human unpredictability. The battle reached its climax when the Argentum, using its experimental stealth systems, managed to slip inside a Harvester's defensive envelope. The ship's weapons, modified far beyond their original Araxian specifications, tore open a rift in the creature's dimensional matrix. The other human ships immediately concentrated their fire on the weakness, and for the first time in recorded history, a Void Harvester died. The remaining Harvesters retreated, their perfect formation shattered by the chaos of human combat doctrine. As the quantum ruptures sealed behind them, a stunned silence fell over both human and Araxian crews. "Damage report," Elena called out, breaking the spell. "Minor damage to decks 3 through 5. Chen responded. "Shield modifications held better than expected. The Araxian fleet is intact." The Araxian ambassador's image reappeared on the screen, its patterns now showing what the human's translation software interpreted as awe. Impossible, it transmitted. You destroyed one. In all our centuries of fighting, we never. Sometimes the impossible just needs a fresh perspective, Elena replied. And humanity specializes in fresh perspectives. As damage control teams began their work and the fleet regrouped, Elena knew this was only the beginning. The harvesters would return, better prepared for human tactics. But humans would adapt too. It's what they did best. The stars around them seemed to shine brighter, as if bearing witness to a turning point in galactic history. Humanity had proven itself not just capable of fighting alongside the Araxians, but of changing the very nature of the war itself. The silent stars were silent no more, and their song was one of hope. The Battle of New Haven. New Haven was supposed to be exactly what its name promised: a sanctuary. The massive space station, built from the combined efforts of human and Araxian engineering, orbited a binary star system 12,000 light-years from Earth. Its vast docking rings housed both refugee ships and military vessels, while its core contained research facilities where the two species worked to understand each other better. Commander Sarah Wu stood in the station's central observation dome, her cybernetic eye recording the swirling patterns of the Araxian scientist she knew as Stream of Starlight. After 3 months of working together, they'd developed a friendship that transcended their biological differences. Your species continues to surprise us, Stream of Starlight communicated, its luminescent form shifting in what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. You've taken our quantum mechanics theories and applied them in ways we never imagined. Sometimes the best solutions come from not knowing something's impossible, Sarah replied, studying the holographic display between them. It showed the latest modification to the station's defense systems, a hybrid of Araxian shields and human chaos theory algorithms. The peaceful moment shattered as alarms blared throughout the station. Sarah's cybernetic systems instantly connected to the defense grid, flooding her mind with tactical data. Multiple harvester signatures, she announced, already moving toward the command center. Biggest fleet we've seen yet. They're learning. Stream of Starlight pulsed anxiously, flowing alongside her. They're adapting to your unpredictability. Then we'll just have to get more unpredictable. The command center was already bustling with activity when they arrived. Captain Elena Martinez had been promoted to fleet commander after the first successful engagement, and she stood at the central tactical station, her expression grim. 37 harvester vessels, Elena reported as Sarah took her station. They're using a new formation we haven't seen before. Multiple dimensional signatures we can't identify. Sarah plugged directly into the tactical network, her augmented mind processing the data streams. The harvesters had indeed evolved their tactics, incorporating elements of chaos into their own strategies. They were learning to think more like humans. All ships, battle stations, Elena ordered, her voice carrying across the fleet communication channels. Execute Defense Plan Omega. Civilian ships begin evacuation procedures. The human Araxian fleet moved into position around New Haven. The station's massive defense rings hummed to life, their hybrid weapons charging. In the docking bays, fighter squadrons launched. Human pilots paired with Araxian navigators, their combined intuition making them nearly impossible to predict. The harvesters struck first, their attack patterns splitting into fractal formations that seemed to fold through dimensions. Several of their ships appeared to be in multiple places simultaneously, confounding targeting systems. They're using our own chaos against us, Sarah realized, her cybernetic systems struggling to track the multiple dimensional signatures. Stream of Starlight, can you help me make sense of these readings? The Araxian flowed into the command center's sensor array, its consciousness merging with the station's systems. They've learned to create quantum uncertainty fields, it transmitted. They're existing in multiple probability states simultaneously. Then we'll have to collapse those probabilities, Elena declared. All ships, switch to Mark 7 targeting protocols. Fire when ready. The battle erupted in earnest. Human ships darted through space in seemingly random patterns, their weapons modified to fire through multiple dimensional states. Oraxian vessels provided support, their ancient technology guided by human intuition to strike in ways their original designers never intended. But the Harvesters had indeed learned. Their new tactics began to take a toll. The destroyer Thunderchild vanished in a burst of quantum fire, its crew lost between dimensions. The Argentum's experimental stealth systems failed against the Harvester's probability scanning, forcing the ship to retreat with heavy damage. "We're losing the outer defense ring," Sarah reported, her cybernetic eye tracking multiple battles simultaneously. "They're adapting faster than we can." Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The Harvesters had learned to counter their chaos with chaos, but perhaps that was the key. "All ships, prepare to execute Plan Zero," she ordered. Sarah's organic eye widened. "Commander, Plan Zero hasn't been tested. The simulations show a 40% chance it could collapse the entire local space-time continuum." The Harvesters base their attacks on predicting probabilities, Elena explained. "So let's give them something with no probable outcome at all." Stream of Starlight pulsed with understanding. "You want to create a controlled uncertainty cascade. The mathematical implications alone." "Exactly," Elena smiled. "Sometimes the best way to deal with chaos is to embrace it completely. All ships, synchronize quantum drives with New Haven's main reactor. Prepare to execute on my mark." The next few moments stretched into eternity as human and Oraxian crews worked together, linking their ship systems in ways that defied conventional physics. The Harvesters pressed their attack, seemingly aware that something unprecedented was building. Plan Zero, execute. The combined power of 30 ships and one massive space station poured into a single point in spacetime, creating a cascade of quantum uncertainties. Reality itself seemed to shudder as probability waves collapsed and reformed in impossible patterns. The Harvesters, their very existence dependent on manipulating dimensional probabilities, found themselves caught in a storm of pure chaos. Their perfect formations shattered as ships were caught between states of existence and non-existence. "Direct all weapons fire at the uncertainty nexus," Elena commanded. "Let's give them a lesson in applied chaos theory." The combined fleet opened fire, their weapons tearing through the quantum maelstrom to strike the Harvesters at their most vulnerable. One by one, the interdimensional entities were torn apart by forces they couldn't predict or control. When the quantum storm finally cleared, the space around New Haven was littered with the dimensional remnants of destroyed Harvester vessels. But the victory had come at a heavy cost. 3 more human ships had been lost, and the station's outer rings were heavily damaged. As damage control teams rushed to stabilize critical systems, Elena turned to Stream of Starlight. "We've proven they can be beaten," she said quietly. "But they'll adapt again. They'll find ways to counter even this." The Oraxians' patterns shifted in what Sarah had learned to recognize as determination. "Then we will adapt as well. Together. Your species has taught us that there is strength in uncertainty, in refusing to be bound by what we think is possible." Sarah watched through her cybernetic eye as human and Oraxian crews worked side by side to repair the battle damage. 2 species, separated by 50,000 years of evolution and fundamental differences in how they perceive reality, united by the simple human principle that sometimes the best way to face an impossible situation was to do something equally impossible. The stars watched silently as New Haven began to rebuild, its very existence a testament to the power of combining ancient wisdom with human audacity. The Harvesters would return, stronger and more adaptable than ever. But they would find their prey had evolved as well, guided by human ingenuity and the unshakable determination to protect their newfound allies. Warriors of 2 worlds. Deep within the research labs of New Haven, Dr. Maya Patel watched as human and Oraxian consciousness merged in ways that should have been impossible. The neural interface chamber glowed with a soft blue light as Lieutenant James Chen's mind synchronized with the Oraxian consciousness they called quantum dance of light. Neural patterns stabilizing. Maya reported, studying the holographic displays that showed the unprecedented merger of two fundamentally different forms of awareness. How do you feel, James? Like I can see through time, James responded, his voice filled with wonder. QDL's thoughts, they're not just linear. They branch in all directions at once. The luminescent patterns that formed quantum dance of light pulsed with corresponding excitement, and I experienced such clarity through James's chaos. The translated thoughts emerged. Your species' ability to focus on single moments, to make intuitive leaps, it's extraordinary. This was the next evolution of human-Araxian cooperation. After the Battle of New Haven, both species had realized that victory would require more than just combining their technologies. They needed to merge their very ways of thinking. Fleet Commander Elena Martinez entered the lab, accompanied by Stream of Starlight. The station had been rebuilt stronger than before, incorporating lessons learned from the last battle. But everyone knew the Harvesters would return, and next time, their adaptation to chaos might be complete. How's the integration progressing? Elena asked, watching as James and QDL's combined consciousness manipulated quantum probability fields with unprecedented precision. Better than we hoped, Maya replied. The human ability to hyperfocus combined with Araxian multidimensional awareness, it's creating something entirely new. Watch this. On her command, a combat simulator activated. A virtual harvester vessel appeared, its form shifting through multiple probability states. The merged consciousness of James and QDL responded instantly, predicting and countering moves that hadn't even been made yet, while simultaneously executing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. They're not just sharing thoughts, Stream of Starlight observed, its patterns shifting in amazement. They're creating new ways of thinking, new ways of perceiving reality itself. Similar experiments were happening throughout New Haven. Human pilots merged consciousness with Araxian navigators, their combined insights revolutionizing space combat. Engineers from both species worked in perfect synchronization, their different approaches to physics spawning technologies that neither civilization could have developed alone. But it wasn't just about combat and technology. As humans and Araxians learned to share consciousness, they began to understand each other on levels that transcended traditional communication. Humans experienced the vast, timeless perspective of a species that had explored the galaxy for 50,000 years. Araxians discovered the passionate intensity of human emotions, the ability to focus entirely on single moments, and draw inspiration from limitation itself. Commander Sarah Wu stood in the Tactical Command Center, her cybernetic systems now integrated with Araxian quantum processors. Through her enhanced perception, she could see the defense fleet moving through its exercises, human and Araxian ships dancing through space in patterns that combined mathematical precision with artistic improvisation. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual quantum fluctuations, she reported, her merged consciousness processing data faster than ever before. The Harvesters are evolving again. Their dimensional signatures are becoming more complex. Elena studied the tactical displays, her expression grim. They're not just adapting to chaos now. They're trying to master it completely, to become beings of pure quantum uncertainty. Let them try, Stream of Starlight pulsed confidently. They understand chaos as a mathematical concept. But humans, you understand it as a fundamental truth of existence. You don't just adapt to uncertainty, you thrive in it. In the fighter bays, human pilots and their Araxian partners prepared for combat drills. Their merged consciousness allowed them to perceive space-time as both a single eternal moment and an infinite series of possibilities. They could execute maneuvers that looked like pure chaos, but followed patterns so complex they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The research labs worked around the clock, human intuition and Araxian knowledge combining to create weapons that could target enemies existing in quantum superposition. Defense shields were modified to exist in states of controlled uncertainty, making them nearly impossible to predict or penetrate. But perhaps most importantly, the two species were learning from each other's cultures and values. Humans gained a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things, while Araxians discovered the strength that came from embracing imperfection and limitation. "The harvesters are gathering their forces," Alina announced during a command staff meeting. "Our long-range probes show they're assembling the largest fleet we've ever detected. They're preparing for a final push." The holographic tactical display showed hundreds of harvester vessels, their forms more fluid and uncertain than ever before. They had learned much from their defeats, incorporating elements of chaos and uncertainty into their very nature. "Let them come," Sarah responded, her cybernetic eye glowing with combined human and Araxian energy. "We're not the same enemies they faced before. We're something new." Throughout New Haven, preparations for the final battle accelerated, but there was no panic, no desperate rush. Humans and Araxians worked together with the quiet confidence of warriors who had found strength in their differences and unity in their shared determination to protect life itself. In the neural interface chamber, James and Quantum Dance of Light continued their merged exploration of reality's underlying nature. Through their combined consciousness, they could perceive the quantum threads that bound the universe together and the infinite possibilities that existed in every moment. "The harvesters think they can master chaos by understanding it," James observed, his thoughts merging seamlessly with QDL's multidimensional awareness. "But that's their fundamental mistake." Indeed, QDL's patterns pulsed in agreement. They seek to control that which cannot be controlled. "But humans, you have taught us that true strength lies in embracing chaos while maintaining your essential nature, in finding patterns in randomness without trying to eliminate the randomness itself." As the final battle approached, New Haven hummed with energy and purpose. Human and Araxian consciousness merged and separated in endless combinations, each union creating new insights and possibilities. They were no longer two species fighting together. They had become something more, something that transcended their individual limitations while preserving their unique strengths. The stars watched silently as the combined fleet prepared for war. Soon, they would face an enemy that had evolved to embody chaos itself. But in doing so, the harvesters had overlooked one crucial truth. There was something stronger than chaos, something that could give it purpose and direction without trying to control it. That something was hope. Hope born from the unlikely union of human passion and Araxian wisdom, hope that had transformed two fundamentally different species into warriors of two worlds, united in their determination to protect all that they held dear. Dawn's light. The void between the spiral arms of the galaxy blazed with quantum fire. Hundreds of harvester vessels, their forms now barely comprehensible to normal spacetime, faced off against the combined human-Araxian fleet. At the center of the defensive formation, the ESS Hyperion had been transformed by months of continuous adaptation and integration of both species' technologies. Fleet Commander Elena Martinez stood on her bridge, her consciousness partially merged with Stream of Starlight's multidimensional awareness. Through their combined perception, she could see the battle on multiple levels simultaneously: physical space, probability waves, and the quantum underlayer of reality itself. "They've achieved full quantum uncertainty," Commander Sarah Wu reported, her cybernetic systems processing vast streams of tactical data. "The harvesters exist in all possible states simultaneously. Traditional targeting is impossible." "Then we'll do something impossible," Elena responded, her merged consciousness reaching out to the fleet. "Execute Operation Twilight." Throughout the fleet, human and Araxian consciousness joined in unprecedented harmony. Fighter squadrons moved in patterns that looked like chaos, but followed a deeper order that existed beyond normal spacetime. The merged consciousness of pilot James Chen and Quantum Dance of Light led the vanguard, their shared awareness allowing them to perceive and react to possibilities before they even manifested. The harvesters struck first, their attacks coming from multiple dimensional states at once. Space itself seemed to shudder as they brought to bear weapons that existed in quantum superposition, capable of striking from all possible angles simultaneously. But the defenders were ready. The hybrid shields they developed fluctuated in patterns based on human neural activity, making them as unpredictable as thought itself. Orcsian quantum technology, guided by human intuition, allowed their ships to shift partially out of normal spacetime, matching the Harvester's dimensional flexibility. Primary weapon systems showing quantum alignment, Dr. Maya Patel announced from her station. The uncertainty field is stable. All ships, commence firing, Elena ordered. Remember your training. Don't try to predict where they are. Feel where they might be. The battle that followed defied conventional description. Human and Orcsian vessels moved in perfect synchronization, their attacks guided by the combined insight of two species. They didn't fight the Harvester's quantum uncertainty. They embraced it, using it to strike at the very foundation of their enemy's existence. The Thunderchild, rebuilt after its near destruction at New Haven, led a desperate charge into the heart of the Harvester fleet. Its weapons, modified by the merged consciousness of its human Orcsian crew, fired shells that existed in multiple probability states, guided by human intuition to find their targets across dimensions. But the Harvesters had evolved far beyond their original form. They responded with attacks that bent probability itself, creating cascading waves of quantum destruction that threatened to unravel the very fabric of spacetime. Hull breach on Deck 7, Sarah reported as the Hyperion shuddered under a multidimensional assault. We're losing containment on the quantum drive. Elena shared a quick glance with Stream of Starlight, whose pattern swirled with grim determination. They both knew what had to be done. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, Elena commanded. Prepare to execute final protocol. The gathered crew tensed. Final protocol was theoretical, based on the combined research of human and Orcsian scientists. It had never been tested because the simulations suggested it might not just destroy the Harvesters, it could fundamentally alter the nature of reality itself. Commander, Sarah began, her organic eye showing concern while her cybernetic one processed probability calculations. If we do this, sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules of the game entirely, Elena replied, her voice carrying the combined wisdom of human determination and Orcsian understanding. All ships prepare to synchronize quantum drives. Throughout the fleet, human and Orcsian consciousness merged more deeply than ever before. They weren't just sharing thoughts or coordinating attacks. They were becoming something new, something that transcended the boundaries between their species. Quantum synchronization at 100%, Maya reported. Field stability at maximum. Elena took a deep breath, feeling Stream of Starlight's presence merging with her consciousness completely. Execute final protocol. In that moment, every ship in the fleet channeled their power into a single point in spacetime. But instead of trying to destroy the Harvesters directly, they did something unprecedented. They embraced chaos completely, surrendering to uncertainty while maintaining their essential nature. The effect was beyond anything they had simulated. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as human unpredictability and Orcsian quantum mastery combined to create a cascade of possibilities. The Harvesters, who had evolved to exist in all possible states, suddenly found themselves trapped by their own nature. They can't adapt, Sarah realized, her merged consciousness perceiving the truth. They evolved to master chaos, but we're not trying to master it. We're becoming one with it. The Harvesters' perfect quantum state began to collapse. Their attempt to embody chaos had made them vulnerable to a force they couldn't comprehend. The ordered chaos of human consciousness guided by Orcsian wisdom. The battle reached its crescendo as reality itself seemed to flutter between states of existence. Human intuition and Orcsian knowledge worked in perfect harmony, creating patterns in probability that the Harvesters couldn't predict or escape. One by one, the interdimensional entities began to fall. Their quantum structures, unable to maintain coherence in the face of truly transcendent chaos, collapsed into singular states and were torn apart by the combined fleet's weapons. When the quantum storm finally cleared, the void was empty save for the human Araxian fleet. The harvesters, who had terrorized the galaxy for so long, had been undone not by superior technology or greater numbers, but by their inability to understand that true strength lay not in mastering chaos, but in embracing it while remaining true to oneself. The cost had been high. Several ships had been lost in the final battle, their crews sacrificing themselves to maintain the quantum field that had made victory possible. The survivors bore scars that would never fully heal, both physical and psychological. But as Elena looked out at the stars, now truly silent for the first time since the war began, she felt a deep sense of peace. Through stream of starlight's consciousness, she could perceive the quantum echoes of their victory rippling through spacetime, creating new possibilities for the future. What happens now? Sarah asked softly, her cybernetic systems gradually returning to normal operation. Now, Elena replied, feeling the combined hope of two species flowing through her. We build something new, together. Throughout the fleet, humans and Araxians began the work of healing and reconstruction. But they were no longer separate species working in cooperation. They had become something more, something that carried the best of both worlds while transcending their individual limitations. The stars watched silently as the fleet began its journey home. They had witnessed something unprecedented, not just the defeat of an unstoppable enemy, but the birth of a new way of existing. The humans had proved that their greatest strength lay not in their technology or their fighting prowess, but in their ability to adapt, to embrace chaos while maintaining their essential nature, and to forge connections that transcended the boundaries of species and spacetime itself. In the end, it wasn't just a victory over the harvesters, it was a victory for life itself, for the endless possibilities that arise when different species come together, not to master the universe, but to become one with its fundamental nature. The silent stars had seen the end of one era and the beginning of another, and in their ancient light, human and Araxian consciousness danced together, creating patterns that would echo through eternity.